Hello. Somebody was giving away some sage and bay cuttings, so I've taken a few and I'm going to try growing from them. Now I'll just put them in water for a couple of days till I could get around to putting them in. So they've been sitting in water for a couple of days, but they seem alright. They're doing fine. In this tray I've got 2 pots of compost which I've watered already, and into them I'm going to add a bit of sharp sand for drainage, and just mix that in. Now, this is not a how-to video, this is how I'm doing it, but there are good instructional videos on the web, so I'm not going to go into details. So that's the compost sorted. What we want is a piece like that, which has got nice healthy leaves, about 15 centimeters or so. Don't have to be too precise. I've cut the lower leaves off. Whilst it's rooting, it doesn't need all of those leaves, so what I'm going to do is cut a good half of each of these top leaves. In fact, I might remove that big one anyway, so it's not having to work quite as hard to support these leaves. Those little ones should be okay. I'll cut that one off as well. So now I've ended up with a much smaller piece. Now it's very simple, just plunk it in the soil to a good depth and let it root. Now it takes quite a few weeks for sage to root, and we'll come back to that when the time comes. I've put the 2 pots of sage. Now you don't want them to be too close together, got to watch out that they're not touching, and then all I'm going to do is gently frame that in so that it's making good contact with the compost. Same with this one, and separate the plants so those 2 aren't touching. Right, so that's the sage done. Now all I do is put it in this plastic tote, and I'll just sit there, and what I'll do is I'll put a cover on it, but I'll do the bay as well first, and then that can go in as well. The procedure for bay leaves is exactly the same as for sage. The only difference is that I've put a bit more sharp sand in the compost because bay doesn't like its roots being wet, so I've put a bit more in to improve the drainage even more. Well, the procedure is exactly the same, so all I'm going to do is take the leaves off, bottom leaves off. And you could use them for cooking, but you know, I've got plenty for cooking. And then the top leaves I'm just going to chop off, and once we've got that, we can simply plunk it in, and that's it. Obviously, if there are any sort of ratty leaves that look a bit diseased, take those off. Right, so I'm just firming it in to make sure that it's got good contact with the compost, and there it is. Now the last stage, just a little bit of watering. The compost is already moist anyway, but just a little bit of watering just to get rid of any air pockets. You can sit next to the sage plants there. So that's all done. Now what I'm going to do is put a cover on top of this of sheet of perspex, and that will help keep the moisture in. It's just a but there is a little bit of a gap here just so it doesn't sort of get too humid in there. And finally, just put it into a shady corner in the greenhouse under the benches so it's out of direct sunlight, and come back and check it and just water it occasionally, and we'll see what happens.